everyone. Today I thought I'd just have a bit of a chat for, say, what we call it, what should we call it? Daily musings. I was just having a bit of a reflect on years really gone by and the sort of people that I've met in my life. And my sister said to me not long ago, how can you turn something that's pretty awful into something that's quite humorous? And I just said it's the way I cope with things. I never used to be like that. I used to be biting my nails and petrified I'd make a mistake. When you're young, you know, you're sort of Captain Sensible. And I think it's in recent years, I just thought I don't want to be Captain Sensible anymore. I don't want to be restrained by structure and organisations that say you can't say this and you can't say that and you've got to watch what you say. And I'm sick of the wokey cokey. So I just thought, well, I'd share with you my thoughts on the sort of people I've met over the years. And back in 1984, I went to work for British Telecom. I didn't want to go to work, I wanted to go to college, but my dad said get a job. And there was no question about it. I even worked on a Saturday illegally at 15, and I saved up money for a train fare and went to Liverpool and had an interview at a college. And I remember going and thinking it was the most awful place. And this man was horrible to me in the interview. And he made me sit at an angle like this, so I couldn't move my chair. So I was permanently turned with my neck to him. And I think what he was probably wanting me to do was to pull out the chair and be confident enough to sit comfortably. But at, 18 years of age, you don't do that. You sort of, you follow what people say. You say, sit there, so you sit there. And he said to me, what does your father do? Well, I said, he's a painter. As in Rembrandt? I said, no, as in Mr. Kelly and Co. or whatever I said. And I just felt he belittled me the whole time. And it was for a social worker course. And I remember thinking, do I really want to do social work? Probably not. But I knew that they accepted my grades at A-level, so that's probably why I went for the course. So anyway, he rang me up when I got home and he said, I'm offering you the position. I said, I don't want it, thank you. And he was stunned. And I had the confidence to say, no thanks. I said, I've never been so upset all my life in an interview. I said, I'd rather not, thank you. And left it at that. So that stumped him. And off I went to work at British Telecom. And initially I was a clerical assistant. And that just meant photocopying, doing all the odd jobs, running around after everybody. And they also gave me lists and lists and lists of numbers to add up. Because in my interview, I never forget, this really nice man said, what's your least favourite subject at school? And I said, maths. And he said, right, we'll put you in the sales forecasting department. And all day I was adding up numbers and the numbers never added up to the same number that I added up before. And I had this calculator and I was tapping away. And then I'd do the list again and it was a different number. I think they just did it just to give me something to do. And I remember being shocked at how lazy people were at work. I was really stunned, quite frankly. So, British Telecom, listen to me. If you want to go and find out what's happening, maybe it's different these days, but I was stunned. There were huge open plan offices. And there were men there that used to arrive at 6. They used to clock in with their little key, because it was flexi time in those days. And they would say, oh, yes, I just read my newspaper, for a couple of hours, have a coffee. And I remember thinking, what the hell's going on? There were so many levels of management. It was a bit like the Michael J. Fox movie, The Secret of My Success, where he goes around and he decides to go from the post room to a senior management position. And that's what it was like at BT. You could have opened any door, put your name on a brass plate, and people would have believed that you were a manager. And anyway, I got fed up with all these adding up numbers, and I remember saying, could I go for a promotion? Because I needed to get a flat, and I couldn't afford the rent. And I went for this commercial officer position. And I passed the board and I went up to the director of HR. Now, he was a funny character. He always had the same shirt on with dried up egg flowing down the shirt, which sort of tickled my stomach a bit. And I remember thinking, how can you be head of HR and look like that? But he was very, very confident. Oh, my goodness. He puffed out his chest and he said, I'm personnel, head of personnel. It was never HR then, it was personnel. And I said, I just wondered why, I've passed the board, but why I haven't got a job, why I haven't got the position, because everybody else seems to be overtaking me. He said, but you're Irish, you have an Irish surname. I said, that's right. like lots of other people. He said, well, we're looking into your background. We're checking every detail about you, you know. Yes, we don't know what you could do having an Irish surname. You could blow up British Telecom. You could be a member of the IRA. Well, at 20 years of age now I was really upset. And I remember thinking, well, who do I go to? You can't go to personnel and say you're upset, can you? You're dealing with the man who's head of it. Anyway, I don't think they found anything out, really. You know, God knows what they found out. But I got the job, not as a commercial executive, whatever it was, as a clerical position of some sort, but I got a position as secretary to the board. And that was dealing with the senior board, like the man with the egg down the shirt. And I ended up working with two other ladies, and I was the one that had 4 senior managers to work for. One of them had 1, the other one had 2, and I had 4. So you can imagine my workload. And typically, I'm running around on different floors, 14 floors there were in that building. I'd be phoned up. You couldn't get upstairs, we need some, take some shorthand. Off I'd go with my shorthand pad. Try to shakily take it all down. Then I'd go to another one and say, oh, here's some audio tapes. And then I worked for one who hardly gave me any work, thank goodness. But he was as mad as a box of frogs. And he was the district estates manager in charge of properties. And on the end of any letter that I did type for him, it was a district accommodation manager. And he'd say, Joe, I don't think you're spelling this right, you know. I said, what? He said, accommodation. It has 1 C and 1 M, you know. I say, well, I think you'll find it's got 2 C's and 2 M's. No. Possibly 2 M's, 1 C, but not 2 C's, 2 M's. No, go and check that, Joe. I'd check it if I were you. And I liked his personality because he was the sort of strange guy that he said, you know, I've got a lovely lunch today. Ooh, a nice architect's lunch. Yes, we'll get out a few plans. You know, we'll talk about this, that and the other. But, you know, it's all a game, you know, Joe. Here's me being serious, thinking, what the hell is he going on about? And he's just like the character of the major in the programme Fawlty Towers. If you're in the UK, you'll know what Fawlty Towers is. You might see it at other parts of the world. John Cleese running around all over the place. That's how I felt. I used to slide along corridors because I was going from one boss to the other. And you're also clocking all the madness of people. It's almost like you're in a play. And I got this mad as a box of frogs man. Yes, I'm going for a nice lunch, you know, yes. And then I worked for another chap who was very quiet. He barely said a word. And he'd say, bring your notepad. And I'd go in, and then he'd get a phone call from Shirl, his wife. Shirley was like a cartoon character on the other end of the phone because I was totally embarrassed but amused at the same time because he'd go, yes, Shirl. No, Shirl. Whatever you say, Shirl. Bye, Shirl. And I thought, how come these senior managers are married to such dimwits? I mean, we're talking, you could hear a voice going, I thought, what's she saying? And it's the fact that he just went, yes, Shirl. No, Shirl. Bye, Shirl. And I'd be shaking, trying not to laugh and pretend I hadn't heard half this baloney down the phone. So he was another chap, but really quite kindly in his way. And then I worked for 2 very, very busy people, and they were just absolute nightmares. And it was a shame because I could have whacked out loads of work on an old typewriter. And I did say that to one guy. I said, why have you spent all this money on these IBM computers that don't do anything? We could only, type one plain sheet of work, but we couldn't do tables. We couldn't do half the things that I would do on a typewriter. And I remember saying, why have they brought these in? And the whole of British Telecom went at great cost to have these IBM computers that didn't do anything. You could type a word, a sentence, and print it, and that'd be it. And I remember my sister, she worked in the telex department. She was telexing information across the world. And she said, thank goodness I'm not on the IBMs. I mean, they didn't do anything. So all that was a waste. part two, I think my video cut out then. So where was I? I was talking about British Telecom and the people I was working for, wasn't I? So yeah, another guy was very, very helpful actually, quite bossy. And I got into astrology at the time of watching everybody, because I remember thinking people's characters amazed me. And this chap was an Aries, very forthright, very direct, bit like an Alan Sugar type character who's also Aries. And he said to me, "What are you doing throwing your money down the toilet for a flat? Get yourself one and buy it." And I said, oh no, I'm not brought up like that. I'm a bit worried, you know. I had my dad saying owning your own house was a millstone round your neck, and or flat or whatever. And this, he was called Dr. Wolf, and he said, "No, you're throwing it down the bloody toilet. Don't throw your bloody money down the bloody toilet and bloody buy yourself something." I said, "But yes, but say if I lose my job, you know, it's all right for you, like your senior managers." He said, "You lose your job, you get another one the next day." I said, "Well, how do you make that out?" He said, "You can temp. You have transferable skills. You can walk out of here and get a job tomorrow afternoon." He said, "Okay, you might have a day in between doing all your little typing tests." He said, "You will be temping within one day. You will never be out of work." And he opened something up inside of me. It gave me confidence to think, actually, he might be right. So I went and bought a flat then, after having rented one, and made a substantial amount of money in a matter of 2 years. I was able to put a deposit on a house then. So he did something for me that unlocked my, I suppose these days, if you look at a load of YouTube videos about how you're programmed as a child, I was programmed to think, I better not do this, I better not do that, in terms of security. But he said, "You get a job anywhere." It just made me feel totally empowered. And I think I need to pass that message on, because it's incredible how your mind processes stop you from doing things and thinking in terms of lack and scarcity rather than, actually, I could do it. And I did. And it was the best thing, because then when you know, for me, I felt it was my little home, and nobody could take that away from me. So that was nice, and I'm not knocking anybody in rented accommodation, but at the time, it was better for me to do that. And so he was a very strong character, and I was amazed because he used to really guffaw out loudly. He'd go, "Ha, ha, ha, ha." I mean, they're all like that, apart from a couple who are quiet. I thought, oh, this is a game on this earth. The people who are getting ahead are the foghorn leghorns of this planet, the ones that tell everybody about their achievements. And if you're slightly quieter, that's a bit of a harder game, I think, in life. I'm not saying that everybody should be going around blowing their own trumpet, but it almost seemed to me that the ones at the top were blowing their own trumpet. And people were listening. People didn't have the intelligence to think, maybe they're not so good. Quite incredible. Over the years of different companies, I've watched it time and time again. So British Telecom, the ups of British Telecom were their fantastic canteen service. I got well fed there, and I remember thinking, this is amazing. For £1 or £2 a day, we ate like kings and queens, and I felt that they really looked after their workers in that respect. So that was good. But I did get bullied by a girl who came in from another organisation, a lot older than me, and so I left and went to Central TV. Didn't like this particular girl, so this woman, she was a lot older. Anyway, so I went to Central TV, into the legal department. Oh my. Never again. My younger sister used to work in legal, and it's hard. You're almost working for Sigourney Weaver types. I don't know whether you know, is it 9 to 5 with Dolly Parton? No, not Dolly Parton. Melanie Griffiths. Where Melanie Griffiths is a secretary and she's dumped on by Sigourney Weaver, who's been skiing and breaks her leg. It's exactly like that. And I would ever go into a legal firm again. I had this woman, like my sister's had it, constantly saying, "Oh yes, we'll take that on, we'll take that project on, oh, of course we'll take that project on, oh no problem, yes, we'll do that. And there's only one person behind the scenes doing the admin. And I do recall one man from Alliance and Leicester Building Society saying to me, We have a team of 8 people calculating save as you earn share option scheme shares and when they come to fruition and maturity. We don't just have one person who's a secretary. You've got other things to do. I can't believe you've been taking this on. And I remember dishing out cheques for £24,000 to people who had Central TV shares, thinking, I hope I'm getting this right because nobody's checking it. I thought, nobody's coming to me and saying, let me just check that for you, Joe. No, none of that. I was quite, nervous about it all and thinking, I've got to get this right, Anyway, Sigourney Weaver went off. She was lured with a top title of something in another area of the company. And the clever managing director of the company put everything into cost centres. He thought there was a loss-making section within Central TV, so he was determined to find out who was making all the losses. So he made everybody put cost centre codes on anything you spent, whether it was a notepad, a pen, anything. And he soon found out the people who were spending all the money, and it happened to be people in the filmmaking side. Your little darlings go, oh yes, I need freesias on my desk, darling. Go and get me some freesias while I'm directing this programme. Oh, I do like the smell of freesias. And it was things like that, that cost a lot. So he farmed out independence and various sections once he found out all the loss-making side of the company. So the legal department, I was bossed around by this woman. Oh, we in the legal department do several hours extra each day. I said, but I've got to get my train. I've got to get the 6:20 train overnight. Well, you'll have to get the 7:10, won't you? Or the 7:20. Because we really work hard in the legal department. And there she was, smoking her cigarette, puffing it in my face. They can't do that these days, can they? I tell you, I was choking. I was going, oh, I've got that chest. I was trying to take the shot. Terrible. And thank goodness smoking has been ruled out in offices because I was suffering like many other people. But she did it on purpose. She really puffed it into my face. So that was naughty. Anyway, off from there, I went to work for another woman in Central TV, and she was known as the Rottweiler. She went on to become very, very big in America. I had a real game working with that woman. Let's put it this way. Her leaving present was a cake with a Rottweiler's face on it, a big black dog. I didn't get it organised, a manager did, and they put a leg and blood coming out the leg, and they put Joe's leg on the cake because I got the brunt of everything each day. And I think deep down she liked me, but she was a tough character in a tough world. And she used to break her telephone every day. I had the British Telecom man coming out, the engineer, every day, and he'd go, what's the matter with this handset? Inside was all the wires popping out because she'd slam the phone right across the room if somebody upset her. She got rid of her anxiety. I didn't. It was all like, ooh, locked in here for me. And I thought, what is going on? And I tell you who was nice. There was a guy who was her manager who didn't do any work. Dead lazy. He earned more in bonuses than I earned in a whole year. And he had a chauffeur. And he was, oh yes, real pompous, big chap. And he just sat in his room eating Haagen-Dazs ice cream and drinking Libra sparkling water. And then he'd say, get me the chauffeur. And off he'd go with the chauffeur, and the chauffeur would drive him home miles away. And the chauffeur was lovely. He was so kind, and he knew what was going on. He knew all the farcical leaders, with the exception of my boss, who did everything for this lazy one, drinking the sparkling water. And I just thought, and his secretary earned 3 times more than me, and she didn't have to do anything. But she was another character. She would sit there on the phone. I was just head down. She'd sit there on the phone. Oh, if only you could see my desk. And it was a mess because she was disorganised. She didn't know where anything was. And there was a mouse hiding under a pile of her rubbish behind her desk that came out one day, which was a super, super time for me to watch. I thought, good old mouse, that shocked you. She never tidied anything, but it made it look like she was busy. So she kept this load of rubbish on the desk. And she went, oh, if only you could see my desk. It's like Santa has arrived with a huge sack. So sorry, didn't we reply to that correspondence? It's because he's so overwhelmed with the workload. Sorry about that. Bye-bye. And I used to think, she's getting away with it. Yeah, she was getting away with it, and so was he. And everything came over to our desk. You know, the woman who was throwing and smashing the phone all over the place. So that was another scenario in a play that you just couldn't articulate, really. You have to be there to see it. I tried to keep everything neat on the desk so I knew what was coming in, what was pending, what was... But the other girl was all one big jumble, airhead, total airhead like her boss was. But that's the life, isn't it? The wrong ones getting to the top, and I just couldn't believe it. So I left there after 6 years in total of exhaustion. And I said, could I take redundancy? And I wanted to take redundancy because I wanted a conservatory built. So I could sit in another room with my book or something and get away from the television because my husband loves the telly. And I remember thinking, yeah, I need a conservatory. Yeah, the only way I'm going to get the money for the conservatory is if I take redundancy. So I took redundancy, got the conservatory half built, and then it starts falling down in between the men who got the building company that was going bust. They finished it off, but what they'd done was put sand in between my bricks instead of proper cement. So every time it rained, the bricks wobbled. So I had to have somebody else come in and rebuild a brick wall. So that was that story. In between times, I go and work for the Central England Screen Commission, which was a temporary contract helping to type a film directory. But it was interesting because I learnt that you could rent your home out as a television location. So I was doing all the addresses for all the locations because there was lots of filming around in the West Midlands. So that was quite interesting. And I edited really well because this editor of the directory said, gosh, you're spotting all the errors that I don't spot. So that was good. So I did that for a couple of years and then went on. I wanted to work locally to home. I was sick of going into Birmingham. And I went off to work at Compass Group. And that is for another day. So I hope you enjoyed my musings. I'll catch you another time. And if you've got any comments, any funny stories that you might have, share them with us in the comments. I'd love to hear them. Any funny characters you've met along the way. Bye for now.